Kunja Bihari Gopijana Baba Givarada Jaya Gopijana Baba Givarada Haribo. Well, what do we do? Yashodanandana Rajajanam Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanam Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Jaya Ramata Kunja Bihang Mari Jaya Jaya Ramata Kunja Bihang Mari Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Pada Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya Jai Prabhupada. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Itai golpe manande. Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 7, Bhakti in Bharata, Text 5. Ije, ije cha bhagavantam yagya kratu rupam kratu bir uchavachai sradayar nihot dharsha punasa chaturmasya pashu somanam akriti vikritibir anushavana chaturatra vidina. Ije worshipped cha also Bhagavantam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagyakratu Rupam, having the form of sacrifices without animals and sacrifices with animals. Kratubhi, by such sacrifices. Uchavachahi, very great and very small. Shraddhaya, with faith. Ahirta, being performed. Agnihotra, of the Agnihotra Yagya. Darsha, of the Darsha Yagya. Purnamasa, of the Purnamasa Yagya. Chaturmasya, of the Chaturmasya Yagya. Pashu Somanam, of the Yagya with animals and the Yagya with Somarasa. Prakriti, by full performance. Vakritibi, and by partial performance. Anusavanam, almost always. Chaturhotra Vidhina, by the regulative principles of sacrifice directed by 4 kinds of priests. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace by Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shil Prabhupada Ki Jai. With great faith, King Bharata performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasya, Pashuyagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Somayagya, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharata Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Animals like hogs and cows were offered proper execution of the sacrifice. Otherwise, there was no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in the sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire, and it would come out in a youthful body. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. Sacrifices are forbidden. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashvamedam Gavalambham Sanyasam Palapatrikam Davarena Sutotpatim Kalau Pancha Vivarjayat. In this age Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyasa to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 1764. Such sacrifices are impossible in this age due to the scarcity of expert brahmanas or ritvija to take the responsibility. In the absence of this, the Sankirtan Yagya is recommended. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:5-32. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagyartha Karma. Such activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In this age of Kali, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by intelligent men. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yagyanti Hi Sumedasa. The word Sumedasa refers to intent who possess very good brain substance. With great faith, King Bharata performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. Sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharata Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum lanka adigirim yat kripatam havan shigurandi antarinam. Ham namo bhagavate narasimhaya namaste jasteji saviravir bhava vachalaka vachalam strakarmasyan randar bhamatmani bhushtam kshum. Hare Krishna. So, these sacrifices, as we know, sacrifices described here are very difficult to perform. They require different ingredients, which are difficult to priests here in the verse Chaturhotra Vidhina, by the regulative principles of sacrifice, directed by 4 kinds of priests. So there are 4 kinds of priests also, not just one. It's hard enough to find one qualified. They have to be 4. and they act according to different Vedas. That means they have to know these Vedas. They have to memorize all the verses from the Samhitas. They have to know the Brahmanas, the Kalpas, the ritual. So these four kinds of priests are the one who chants Swaha and pours ghee in the fire is called Hotri. And the one who chants the mantras is called Kata. And then the one who arranges the sacrifice, he builds the sacrificial arena. Another important task. Sometimes it takes a long time actually to build these uh, sacrifices. Sometimes depends on the sacrifice, but sometimes for these big sacrifices, then the yagyaman, the person who, um, so to say, orders the sacrifice, he's the person on which behalf the sacrifice is performed. He has to invite the brahmanas at his place. Usually these are kings, of course, or some important personalities. And then the brahmanas, they have to actually personally make kunda, and this takes a long time because it's a very complicated procedure. Sometimes it takes 9 months just to prepare the kunda. 9 months, and you have to feed all these brahmanas. You have to take care of them. And brahmanas specific. They're actually different. All these varnas, they are different species actually, human species of life. And brahmanas have their own specific nature, so you have to be careful because they are sometimes irritable. They can give blessings, they can curse also. So it's a complicated thing. And then the sacrifice. Okay, this priest is called Advaryu. First one, the Hotri, he's usually a Rig Veda expert, and then the Udgata, the one who chants the mantras, he's a Samavedi, and then the Advaryu is uh, Yajurvedi. And then there is another priest who is called Brahma, and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't, no, not that he doesn't do anything, but he's not direct, presides over the sacrifice. And then he points out mistakes that has been made, and also explains what is the prayashchita, how to counteract the mistakes. That's his duty. And there are other people there. They're called sadasyas. These are the acharyas. They don't involve themselves in the sacrifice. These are great saintly people, saintly persons, say, and they are there just to bless the sacrifice. And I mean, meanwhile, in between the different sacrifices, there are different discussions on Shastra, and they give the discussions, they tell the stories. And you have to take care of all these people. It's complicated. And not only that, but the priests, they have to be Ritija, qualified. They have to know properly all these mantras. And these mantras are chanted in special way because there are different types of Sanskrit. The one is the one that, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam is in written in classical Sanskrit, and no matter how we chant the verses from Bhagavatam or from Gita, the meaning doesn't change. We can chant different melody, right? Well, this verse there was no melody. I just because I don't know the melody for this. What is the proper chant? So, but it doesn't matter because the meaning doesn't change. But the Vedic Sanskrit, unless you get the proper intonation, accent, and pitch of voice, then the meaning changes. And we know, for example, Shri Upanishad is Vedic Sanskrit. So for the Vedic Sanskrit, there is different rules of grammar. Shri Prabhupada translated Ish Upanishad. That means, I mean, I want to say that, yeah, it's not so, there are not so many people who know anything about Vedic Sanskrit. People usually study classical Sanskrit, but Vedic Sanskrit is different story. So Shri Prabhupada translated Shri Upanishad, which is Vedic Sanskrit and comes from directly from the Samhita part of the Veda, which is unique. So you don't find such people in Kali Yuga who are expert in this. Of course, there are some people who chant the mantra still. With Tulsi Prabhu, we went once to South India, and then we went to Tirupati, and then next to Tirupati there is a nice Gurukula, a big Gurukula run by the Sri Vaishnavas, and there are about 700 boys there studying traditional Vedic knowledge in traditional environment. Beautiful place in the forest, and it's a hilly area, and there was in a mountain. But it's because it's South India, it's always warm there. So I spoke with one of the teachers, and he explained that their schedule, the boys is very rigid. So the whole day basically they memorize the Vedas. That's what they do. And we asked them, so what if they wanna have a career, or because in this Gurukula they just memorize the Vedas. But if you wanna become professional, then what you do? And then the Brahmana, he said, we have a university, just but it's down the hill. And we have our own university. The boys, if you want, you can go there and study and have a career. But these boys, that's why they're here, and they study all these mantras and they chant. Anyway, so it's very complicated matter. Also, the ritual itself is complicated. Here, there was mentioning of Purnamasya, Chaturmasya, um, Shraddhaya. No, this is Shraddhaya. Anyway, for example, the Shraddha ceremony, which is one of those ritualistic ceremonies. Shraddha means the ceremony of when the son has to offer oblations. He was mentioned in the purport. The offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers. Um, the the forefathers, they stay in heaven, in heavenly planets, as long as their son offers Shraddha every year. Otherwise, they don't. They become Yamadutas. That's what happens with them. If there is no Shraddha regularly, then they don't have anything. They cannot maintain themselves. They start to starve, and then Yamaraj, because this is the Prithvi Loka where Yamaraj rules, is a heavenly planet. But unless they get this share of sacrifices, Shraddha, then the Pitris, they are starving, no food for them. So then Yamaraj offers them compassionately, here is service for you. You want to maintain yourself. And they become, usually they accept the offer because what to do, and they become Yamadutas, and get inspired to punish impious people because of such people they ended up being Yamadutas. So this is Vedic, the previous ages, there were different processes for spiritual advancement. And okay, so we were talking about the Shraddha. Brahmanas will do. There is long list in the Dharma Shastras. Manu describes what kind of Brahmanas you're not allowed to, you're not supposed to invite. They're not qualified, in other words. There are many. Long list. Basically, most of the Brahmanas, they are not qualified to attend. These are astrologers, physicians, different types of priests. Yeah, I don't remember now, but it's a long list. So then, even if they are qualified, let's say, if you follow all the rules and you invite them and you feed them properly, if the Brahmana after he ate the offering, the Shraddha offering, he goes back home and has sex with his wife, um, this story about Rishi Shringa, it's from Mahabharata, and he's mentioned in Ramayana also. There was one great king, and then in his kingdom there was drought. There was rain for a long time, Brahmana. And because he offended the Brahmanas, he offended certain Brahmana, but the Brahmanas, they showed solidarity. Brahmanas respect, Brahmanas, what, they started the movement, Brahmanas, prestige matters. So they, the kingdom to perform yagyas. So no yagyas, no rain. And then there was no rain for a long time. In the Western world, what they do in such situation is they try to find a scapegoat, right? There is no rain, there is famine, or there is some natural catastrophe, or sailors, there is no wind and the boat doesn't move. So there's somebody has to be guilty for this. So they try to find out who is who is. And in medieval Europe, they were burning Protestants or other heretics because of this. Because in the kingdom there was some natural catastrophe. In the Vedic times, though, in India, what they will do, although everybody knew that the king was offending, he offended the Brahmana, so it was his problem. And Indra doesn't give rain as a consequence because there is they the, the the ministers, the Brahmanas of the king, they told him they didn't kill the king. They didn't punish the king because he's sinful. No, they told him that you have to find a special priest to perform this yagya. Come to the kingdom, and if he's very pious, then there will be rain. So different type of solution of the problem, just like that. Here, and then there was they understood that there is special boy, special brahmachari. Rishi Shringa was his name. He was a son of great sage. And this sage, um, he performed austerities and he was very advanced spiritual. But then it happened that he saw Urvashi, the heavenly Apsara, and just by seeing her, he fell down. He discharged semen, and from this there was special arrangement. Because this great sage, he was so upset because his long amount of austerity he just lost everything, and he decided that I will train up my son as a perfect brahmachari. He won't even see a woman. So he took him to the forest. I guess he was living in the forest already. He made special arrangement that there was no women coming around. So the boy grew up as a perfect celibate. He became very powerful. He was already powerful because he was born as a son of a sage, but because of his tapasya, he became really powerful. So this boy had to perform, he to come to the kingdom, and just by him being present in the kingdom, there will be rain. So but how to get kingdom? The father would not be agreeable, definitely not. He didn't want to have anything to do with any social scene. So the king, he find out when the father was away of the ashram, and then he sent a group of courtesans from the from the palace, and he dressed them as brahmanas because this was the way to attract the boy, because only he'll be attracted only to brahminical um, activities. So they pretended that they're brahmanas and they performed sacrifice, doing all these yagyas, and they went there to the ashram, and they were doing yagyas and chanting mantras, and the the boy was very intrigued. So they came and they explained to him that we're brahmanas, and they were very unusual brahmanas. So the boy was very attracted. He didn't know what's going on, but he was spontaneously attracted because in the material world, Om Sastriyamaya Tuni Bhavamatram Tayomito Hridaya Granti Maha. So Griha Kshetra Sutapta Vitra Janasya Mohoya Mahamameti. This is the basic principle of the material world. Why the material world is running? Because of the attraction between the male and female. So then, in this way, they attracted him, and then when the father came next day, Rishishing was completely absent-minded. He couldn't focus anymore on his duties. So then he went to this kingdom, and then he married. I think he married a princess. And then there was wine, and everybody was happy. I think only the father was not happy. He was not so happy. Uh, he, Rishashinga, he did the yagi for Dasharata Maharaj, and then he got Ramachandra and Bharata and Shatrugna and Lakshman as his sons, the same sage. So this is very important, the quality of the consciousness of the sage, the priest who performs the yaga. So there's so many prerequisites. But in Kali Yuga, there are no so many qualified, actually there are none qualified priests, very simple process. And we don't have to be qualified, fortunately, to perform this Sankirtan Yagya. The only qualification is required is that we should have some faith, Shraddha. This is this famous song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan Patiya Chenam Ata Jivera Karan Shraddhavan He, Shraddhavan He. Lord Nityananda has opened a marketplace of the holy name in at Godrum. Yes, and he's the name there, and the price he's asking is just your faith. If you have faith, that's all you have to have. Little. And how faith is described by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Hridaya Siddhida Nishchaya Krishna Sarva Karma Krita Hai. Shraddha or faith means that this is a firm conviction just that simply by performance of devotional service, all subsidiary duties are performed. Basically, that means this is the only activity you have to perform. You don't have to do anything else, and then we'll be completely satisfied. This is faith. Only bhakti. So chanting of the holy name is the Yuga Dharma. By chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna mantra, we are established in our original position as Krishna's loving servants. And if we chant all the time, Srila Prabhupada said that we have to chant 24 hours, Kirtanya Sadahari, then we'll be always in position. And Srila Prabhupada said it's not impossible, it just takes practice. Because chanting Hare Krishna means, is, dear Srimati Radharani, dear Krishna, please engage me in your servant. So if all the time, then we'll be always engaged, established in our original position. And it's a very simple process, no hard and fast rules. It doesn't depend even on initiation. All these Vedic mantras, you have to be initiated. That's another thing. It's not enough that you're born in a Brahmana family. It's not enough that you get Upanayana, sacred thread ceremony. You have to be actually initiated in one of these big yagas. So it's additional qualification. So many initiations. Hare Krishna mantra, the holy name, doesn't depend even on initiation. Of course, we are getting initiation because otherwise it will be very difficult for us to overcome the fences. But it's so potent, so powerful that it doesn't depend on initiation even. Position, then we can finally try to discriminate between the soul and the mind, which is very difficult otherwise. Because the mind convinces us because that we are, that he is us, that we are the mind. So we think whatever in our mind, this is us and we have to act upon it. But when we are established in our position as eternal Krishna servants of Krishna by chanting the holy name, then we can actually recognize, we can perceive the movements of the mind. You can see, oh, this is the mind. It's not me. Ideas and desires. It's not me. This is the mind. Because the mind will move. The mind will try to escape the control of the intelligence and the soul. Why? Because the mind has accumulated countless material desires over many, many lifetimes. Not only as human being, but in many other of all type of material bodies. So the mind is controlled by desire controls the mind. And because we have unlimited stock, practically unlimited stock of material desires, therefore, the mind, material mind will be restless. It's chanchala, it moves. It doesn't accept any type of authority, spiritual. Even material authority, if you want to attain some material goal, and you try to impose some rules on the mind, okay, we're going to work hard to attain this goal and then be able to enjoy it. The mind will not like this. It's just the nature of the mind. He doesn't like, he wants to be independent. So by being established in our position as Krishna servants, then we can perceive the mind and we can discriminate between the soul and the mind. And unless we try to do this, we won't be able to advance in Krishna consciousness. Actually, many times when devotees have problem in their devotional life, this is the main reason, because they stopped this endeavor to discriminate between the soul and the mind. They just let the mind go. And this is not to be allowed because in Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says that the mind is never to be trusted because at any smallest opportunity he will kill the yogi. In Bhagavad Gita, we know that there is in second chapter, there is this two verses describing the fall down of a yogi. Dhyato vishayam pumsam sangastesho bhajayate sangat sanjayate kama krodh bhajayate. Krodh bhavati samoha smriti vibrama smriti bhramshat buddhi nashat pranashyati. It all starts with contemplation of the uh, sense objects and then developing attachment, and then from attachment lust develops, and from lust, when the lust is not satisfied, then anger, and then anger causes bewilderment. No, bhavati samoha causes illusion, and then bewilderment, and then illusion. Smriti vibhrama. That means illusion causes we forget all the good instructions that we have heard from Shastra, from Guru, from our devotee friends. And then when this happens, then everything is lost. And then you hear the noise, bloop, 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 bloop. And it's, when the devotees came up with this Vaishnava jargon, that somebody had blooped. Uh, Prabhupada didn't know, so they mentioned this. They was talking with him to the Brahmananda Prabhu and another devotee were talking, and they mentioned, yeah. Prabhupada asked, what happened to this such and such boy? And they said, oh, Prabhupada, he blooped. Prabhupada said, what's this blooped? Leaves the movement and starts doing nonsense again. And Prabhupada was intrigued, and then in due course of the conversation, what did he say? He said something like, he also started using it. So he said something, oh, otherwise, if you don't this, we'll whoop. So Prabhupada accepted, it seems. So this is the long, not the long way, but this is the long description, the elaborate, detailed description of the fall down. But Bhagavad Gita also offers a short version of this in the same chapter. Indriyani pramatini. Indriyani pramatini. Okay, find this verse. Okay, no. Okay. So Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nuvidiyate tatasya harati pragyam vayornavam ivam basi. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat of the water on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. So this is the short version. It happens very quickly. So we are tired of okay. I have enough. I want some relaxation. I want to take it easy. Then what happens? We let our mind, our senses to roam about aimlessly. They just roam about. And then what? Sooner than later, they're fixed. Even one of these senses can be fixed, will be fixed on sense object, and then the mind will be attracted. Very interesting. Harati pragyam. Harati means stealing. Pragyam means intelligence. Then intelligence is stolen by illusion. And then that's it. That's the short version of the point. So therefore Prabhupada says, Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada says, we have to position of Krishna's loving servants. There, then there will be no possibility of falling down. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Mm. There is yes, there is Sri Prabhupada comments on this. There is purport to, I believe, Madhya Lila, chapter 25, verse 108, I think, or 20, 108, where this is very nicely explained and very elaborately. The verse says that the holy name is so potent and doesn't depend on initiation. And then in the purport, Sri Prabhupada explains that we have to take initiation. Although the holy name is so important and so potent and so powerful, still we have to take initiation. And he explains the reasons there. We require guidance and from experienced devotees who can save us from all these pitfalls and dangers on the path of devotional service. And that's what I remember. I have to consult again the text. Maybe I can give you the reference later. But I think this is Madhya Lila. Okay, something else? Yes.
Tell Maharaj he performed all these sacrifices and he did it with the purpose to satisfy the Supreme Personality. Then make out, well, he could just, let's say, chant the holy name
Mm.
or worship the deity, and in this way satisfy the Supreme Personality. Why they have to go through all these complicated yagas?
Mm. Well, one thing is that during these yagas, they also chant the holy name because all these mantras are.
Can you repeat the question for the people that are online? We couldn't
Oh,
hear
yeah,
that.
sorry about that. So the first question was, the previous question was if, because I mentioned that the, the, the holy name doesn't depend even on the process of initiation, formal initiation. Although Diksha means transmitting transcendental knowledge. So the holy name is the essence of knowledge. Anyway, the question was then basically, then why do we require initiation? Um, and the, I answered that there is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, I believe, chapter 25, where Sri Prabhupada explains this. The essence is that we cannot overcome the offenses against the holy name unless we take guidance from spiritual master. And then the second question is, why did Bharata Maharaj have, have to perform all these elaborate yagyas? Why he didn't, for the pleasure of Krishna, why he didn't chant the holy name and save all this trouble? Well, first, while performing yagyas, they always chant these mantras and they are full of the holy name of the Lord. Although it's different because they're Vedic mantras, so it's not the nama, it's mantra. And I think because this was also the process, the prescribed process of the dharma of the age, and Bharata Maharaj as emperor, he had to give good example of proper performance of duties. And it was not the time of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu hasn't revealed himself yet. So, okay. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.